What is the Sociable?
The Sociable it is a website. Well, it's a news portal, news blog that I actually started working on in 10 days, or on October 30th. It'll be 10 years that I've been running that site, and it's
10 years. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It started off writing about AI and the Epic of Gilgamesh and humanity's quest for digital immortality. But no, it's a place where I try to track tech and how it affects society. And so I look into what defense departments, government stuff, intelligence agencies, how they develop some of the tech, how that gets transferred over to big tech and vice versa. And then going into what kind of legislation goes about, and then also a lot of stuff on policy. So policies on how tech is used, and so that's a lot of either from governments or from NGOs, and globalists and stuff. That's the kind of area.
How deep do you dive?
I do kind of medium dives because I put out. It's not like a lot of evergreen content, although there's some of that. But it's kind of looking at the day-to-day stuff or week-to-week stuff. And so once, you start reporting on those enough, then you get a bigger sense of kind of where something is moving and what kind of direction. And then I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive. But it's nothing like, more than, I think 10 minutes of reading time maybe is about the longest I've done on a writing thing. But I try, I do direct sources and quotes and stuff and try to bring all the receipts as well.
Yeah, digital influence is probably one of the biggest talking points, actually, if you think about it, because, technocracy, New World Order, Build Back Better, what the Great Reset, all of these terms that generally mean the same thing, all directly involve technology. Yeah,
because, even the Great Reset thing, that's kind of going back to the New World Order thing. But as far as the tech side goes, especially when you're talking about the Great Reset, that's what's powering that. So when Klaus Schwab and Chucky Sausage Fingers Rex, when he was the prince, King of England was a prince, they launched the Great Reset together in June of 2020. And so that's a great reset of societal contracts and of the global economy, they said. But what's powering that is Schwab's term, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is an infusion of our digital, biological, and physical identities. So that's what it's a merger of all of the different technologies: AI, virtual reality, augmented reality, in the future, quantum computing, but also biological technologies and all that.
Yeah, that's why you end up with sort of like biometric recognition, facial recognition, and these sorts of things. It's the merger of exactly those philosophical and scientific talking points.
Yeah, basically, and it's basically going down to transhumanism in the future. It's kind of like what it's going towards. But for now, you've got airports are very much. Countries all over the world are getting advanced in this and pushing through this agenda, this digital ID one, biometric one, in a very big way. But airports have almost got it locked down. And so these things, it's, if you look at what these digital identity systems are, some people say it's on a smartphone, but eventually that's not going to matter. It's you, it's your face, it's a camera, it's a probe, it's a sensor, it's whatever. Even in the UK, their Advanced Research and Innovation Agency, which is modeled after DARPA in the United States, they're going after something to re-engineer stuff in nature, and then the UN and the Rockefeller Foundation using that, they want to monitor and put a digital ID, a nature ID on everything in nature. So I don't think nature has a cell phone or a mobile phone, a mobile device, but still they're going to do digital public infrastructure to monitor, track, and take control of all land and resources and biodiversity.
I often find myself having a bit of a personal tug of war with these concepts, because the way we often talk about them on my show and online and everything else, is it's always bad. It's always nefarious. And I sometimes wonder whether that's a little bit too much like being like a Luddite. I mean, not everything that's technological is bad. I mean, technology is largely a set of tools which can be used for good and for bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can use a hammer to build a house, or you can bash someone's brains in with it, depending how you use it. Inherently, I've also seen these arguments as well. Some people say that, a certain type of technology, its only purpose is for bad, or to spy, or to manipulate, for me, it comes down to, at least for now, the people who are controlling it, who are in charge, and it's about trust. So, yeah, I mean, digital identity systems can be a godsend. They can make everything easier, and then they actually promise to do that, and they probably will. But at what cost? That's the people in charge using. I mean, in a future where there's AI, and especially mixed with quantum computing or whatever, then I don't know what kind of alien entity is entering into the system there. Whether there's actually any human input. But for now, it's I don't want to be a Luddite either. I try to. I only got a mobile phone 2.5 years ago. I'm 40 now, so I just got one just a little bit ago, out of wanting to for banking stuff, and for like doing bills and stuff like that, because it just living out in the middle of nowhere in Colombia and on top of a mountain, it got a little more difficult. There's luckily, I mean, you can still pay in cash here, but it's not the greatest. They still have to go through the banking system. Still got your debit cards and what have you. So, I'm not a Luddite. I don't. The digital ID thing, yeah, it's coming. It's already here, and a lot of people already do have it and use it. But it's kind of like how you navigate through it right now. When I was first reporting on it, about 5 years ago, the Great Reset, and like my first story on digital ID was your digital identity could be used against you in the event of a Great Reset. And the image that I had for that article was of a voodoo doll, because I thought that was very appropriate, because whatever you prick over here, it's going to happen to you, kind of like a quantum, like an entanglement thing. And plus, it had stuff to do with the coming vaccine passports as well. But yeah, the technology itself, again, yeah, I'm not going to be one of those. I used to be so gung ho and like, reject this, don't, but the ways when it's getting out, it's not like you signing up for it. This could be, if you do have a phone, the government can just like have the app downloaded onto your phone or something, or whatever tech company they partner with. Or, just if you go someplace, it's like, nope, stop. If you don't have a phone, well, here's a little paper card, maybe, if they'll mail it to you with a QR code on it. Or if not that, just every single, while they're installing CCTV cameras everywhere, that's you. I mean, your eye, your palm, your gait movement. I think that's one that I know you recently went to China. I don't know if they said anything about gait recognition, but that's when I read it, that was coming out of there as well.
I mean, China is very technocratic. There's no doubt about that. I've never seen as many cameras. I mean, mass surveillance is huge there. I mean, I won't get into a chat now about China, but I will say this. I come from the African continent, so my default setting is, no mass surveillance. We have a very inept government right across. Every government in Africa is pretty useless, so we don't have very effective surveillance tools. Where we see cameras, a lot of them don't work, and when some of them do work, there's no real enforcement. So as I said, my default setting is not to have mass surveillance, and I quite like where I live as a result of that. But I will say this. You do have very blatant mass surveillance in China. It's in your face. You can't miss it. They don't hide it. Whereas in the States and in the UK and Europe, it's very subversive. It's the Palantir type of sinister backdoor kind of surveillance. And I think that's a little bit more worrying.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it that's in the just terms of service, that little fine print that you click to agree on, whatever app or service, whatever. It's you're right. It kind of flies a little bit more under the radar, like, oh, we're not doing this, and then we may collect this technology about you or this data or not. We may share this or not. I was just reading
Facebook,
one of those articles by Ian Davis that you had on the other day, and that's true. So but it's creeping, and people can it's the frog slowly boiling, but I think people are starting to wake up to the heat of it. And yeah, I know what you're saying about Africa. I spent 6 months in Ghana, in Accra, as an intern reporter for the Ghanaian Chronicle there. I mean, we had rolling blackouts all the time. No water, rivers of sewage, no cameras anywhere. I didn't see, like, infrastructure just not there. Internet going off and on like crazy, and so basic stuff, not so much there. Here in Colombia, I'm up in the rural area, but if I go into the little pueblo, there's cameras on every corner. Most people don't really pay attention to them, and they're not really as privacy minded. Anytime you go to a store, they ask you, like, "Hey, do you want to share your ID with us so we can give you better deals and stuff?" And I mean, everyone here just kind of goes along with it. Not me, for that matter.
What do you think is the hill to die on at the moment?
For me, it was the one to die on was the vaccine passport thing, even though that is a digital ID, but it also involved putting something in your body. I wasn't going to do that. That was the one to die on for me, the hill to die on for me. This digital ID one, like how invasive and how just getting away from that concept of it of being a thing on a smartphone. That's a temporary thing, but it's going to, again, going through all those different kinds of sensor systems, sensing systems. So it's, I avoid it as best I can. But it's a really good question, because, the end game and stuff, and trying to see the end picture, I do see it as one of total control, but is it something that's like, oh no, I'm opting out? Well, if there's no opting out, because it's already automatically built into just whatever sees you. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. So hill to die on was the vaccine was putting something in my body, changing something about that. But for right now, I'm monitoring it and navigating it day by day, and seeing what comes up.
I agree with you. I think when you have to inject something into your body, that becomes a hell of a lot more important than something that's more abstract. I mean, CBDC, digital ID, yeah, these are real things, but they're kind of more abstract if you compare them to being injected with something. I mean, I also avoided. I avoided PCR also. I don't know if you did, but I didn't have a single PCR test.
No, I did, because I was when I was traveling, I was okay with the test for traveling. But I mean, when they did ask for like tests or because I wanted to see family and stuff. But the Colombian government at one point they said, no, if you're going to come into Colombia, you need to have the vaccine. And then so it was they did that 2 weeks before a Christmas one year. And so I could leave the country and go to the United States, see family, but I couldn't come back home to Colombia, where I've been living for 11 years, 10 years or 9 years at that point. And so I missed. I had a nephew who was had 7 years of leukemia, and that was his last Christmas, and he died just a couple weeks after that one. So that was really tough. But so I didn't do that. But I didn't get the shot. I didn't leave the country. I stayed here and missed out on that. That was the sacrifice that I went with. But but for PCR, I was okay. Didn't like it, but it wasn't as invasive, as putting some kind of other kind of tech in you.
Let's just stay on that for a second. If you could go back to 2019 before any of the stuff rolled out, would you?
No, I mean, because this is, I'm not one to go back in time, and try to do that, because now with the knowledge that I have, going back then, I mean, would I just go? Are you asking going back there with the knowledge I have now, or just going back there?
Yeah, knowing what you have, knowing what you know now.
No, because no, because all the stuff that I've learned now, it was a result of things that happened. So looking at the even before digital or vaccine passports were even considered as something, it was like in late 2020, a year later after 2019. That I already saw the writing on the wall. I saw that digital ID was coming. I saw these vaccine passports were coming even before a vaccine came out. So it already, that kind of foresight, if you read you can forecast a bit into the future, because they tell you what's going to happen. So in 2019, I guess it would have been nice to look at Event 201 in real time. Maybe that's one of the things I would have done, and just right then and there, to not be so slow. to the narrative because, when the pandemic was declared in March of 2020, like right on the Ides of March, um, uh, it took me about 5 months or so to really kind of like, hold on a second. This isn't like they're abusing this now. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, to slow the spread, or whatever. I was like, okay. And then they're like, oh, this is such a weird thing. Oh, but we're all going through it. Let's make the best of it. And then, after the weeks go by, I'm just like, all right, who's making these decisions? Who's pulling the strings here? And so I got really more into that. I was really skeptical, but for the first few months, I wasn't.
I think it was Nassim Taleb who wrote in one of his books about. I think it was him who wrote about black swan events. I can't remember now. Besides the fact that he got COVID like very, very wrong, I still appreciate his work about risk analysis. And 2020 was a major, major turning point in human history. Right? I mean, I don't think the world has been locked down at any point in history. I think in World War II, maybe one or two countries. And I mean, come on, we know that it was just coincidental, Tim. I mean, we can't be conspiracy theorists here. It was just all coincidence, and all the countries just did it at the same time, and they used all the same language also, just coincidentally. But I'm thinking 9/11 was also a massive turning point on so many levels, and we still don't really know what happened. Would you say that the COVID event was bigger than 9/11?
They're both moving the needle or pushing society in a certain direction. So yeah, 9/11 was huge. I mean, I was 16 when that was happened. I was still in high school when 9/11 happened. But I mean, immediately after that, we got the Patriot Act, and we got TSA, Department of Homeland Security, like all this stuff that came in within like weeks after. So that was already the plan was already in place. To bring in all this stuff, all this surveillance, but they just needed a catalyst. Same thing with COVID, just doing the same thing 20 years or 19 years later. Both bad, and they keep reauthorizing emergency stuff with the Patriot Act. So it's something you keep recycling, and it's not going away. So so which one is? I mean, they were both huge. Nothing is. I mean, and they both launched invisible wars on an invisible enemy, the war on terror, the war on a disease, which built by the military, funded by the U.S. government, maybe in a lab in Wuhan, like it's insane.
Can you remember what you were doing, by the way, on 9/11?
Oh, of course. I was at open gym and doing basketball practice. Before school started, I used to play as captain of my basketball team. I remember we came out of open gym, all sweating, going to the parking lot, and my coach just yelled out, "They're bombing the Pentagon!" And I was like, "What?" It's like, because my coach was pretty crazy anyway. I just thought he was spouting some weird thing, but no, we were all glued to in school and class for the next couple of days. Nobody taught anything. We were just glued to the televisions every single class. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it also. I was visiting my girlfriend at the time, and I don't know, I think we were watching MTV or something, and her brother came running in shouting, "America's under attack, World War III's beginning." And then we switched over to CNN. Those were the days when I still watched CNN,
Yeah, I didn't even watch any. I mean, it was on. It was on every channel as well. Like I was like trying to watch ESPN. I was trying to watch Sports Center, but no, they're showing that too. So yeah.
I mean, I feel like an idiot in hindsight because I didn't catch on to any of this stuff. I thought the official story was what happened for years and years and years and years.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and even when it first happened, I went out and got a little tiny American flag, put it on the antenna of my car, and was like trying to be all patriotic and stuff like that. Not knowing anything about it, just because I'm a teenager. My world was high school and in sports. That was it.
When did you start getting your sort of Damascus moments?
Actually, it was like around 2011, 2012, and that's when I started. I started seeing on YouTube stuff of Bill Cooper and David Icke, and
yes,
yeah. I mean, it was like in 2012. I'm like, huh. And then, from there, I think what happens maybe with people who first get awakened, I don't want to say awakened, but all of a sudden, like, they realize that one thing wasn't really true. And then you always start listening to this one person or another, and you start digging and going down the rabbit holes. Then you're like, nothing is true. This is all like, and so anything else that comes up, no, that's because of this. So I think people kind of lose their minds for a bit. I don't know if Candace Owens is in that realm right now, where like she just kind of starting to gradually discover like, oh, this isn't right, then this isn't right, and then goes full on meltdown and about everything. But yeah, but I think that's a natural process of like almost like a deprogramming thing, where it's like, well, if this isn't true, nothing's true, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that.
It definitely is more nuanced than that. I think you're right. I mean, we're talking about complex systems.
Yeah, definitely. So with the 9/11 stuff, yeah, once to start learning about, well, even then in 2003, when the U.S. went to war with Iraq, I was like, what did that have to do with Afghanistan and 9/11? And then looking at, in the Taliban and Al Qaeda and stuff like that, and it's like, well, no, the people were from Saudi Arabia. And then where was Bin Laden allegedly found? In Pakistan. And so I'm like, and then there was also the whole thing about dancing Israelis. So I'm like, and then, celebrating right on 9/11. So I'm looking at Israel. And they found their, the hijackers' passports in a twisted rubble, all good. So these complex things, it's the more information that comes in, and that's another thing too. We got the internet became, so there's in social media became, internet got more users, more people online sharing information and stuff like that. So before, you say, oh, you used to watch CNN because, yeah, I mean, there wasn't really much out there on Alta Vista or CompuServe or AOL kind of stuff, back in the day.
What do you make of AI? I'm in two minds. I don't think it will ever take over because I don't think it has a will or a desire, but I think it's highly advanced algorithms that can be used for very nefarious purposes. Yeah,
I mean, because it can, it's really good at, handling just a shit ton of data and processing it and trying to make some sense out of it, spitting out whatever results it does. And that can seem, right now it's generative AI is really shit at getting. Well, they do is like go to Reddit or Wikipedia or whatever, so you're not going to get that. But as it keeps advancing, whatever, and people look into it like as maybe some kind of form of government. Others look at it as some kind of form of religion. But the answer is as more data gets collected and the more it processes it, it's going to be, it's beyond our comprehension. So whatever like result it spits out, it could seem totally alien to us. And like if we surrender our decision making to it, that's when we got really big problems. We do a lot anyway. Even just with the search engine, like we don't memorize stuff anymore. We don't really kind of go into physical books, which like if you want to know something, like, oh, just look it up. And so we've lost, just like we don't really know people's phone numbers anymore. We don't have those memorized because, so we just say, oh, I got to go look it up. But what, with AI and being so reliant on technology, then what happens if the signal stops? What happens if you're not able to do that? Our knowledge base now is not written in stone like it used to be. It's not in these papyri in the desert where it can be preserved. It's in the cloud. It's in screens and stuff like that. So if there's any kind of cyber warfare that goes on, or if there's some kind of natural disaster of something that messes with all these systems, we're going to be kind of stupid. We're going to, yeah.
Tim, if there are so many psyops going on and so many distractions going on, where should we be looking?
Well, the old philosophy is look within. No, the thing is, you gotta. I look at and follow tons of sources. Even the ones don't agree with or disagree with, or even one that seems so fantastical that I don't know. But the thing is, getting information from everywhere you can, and then applying your own discernment, your own judgment, your own, so I wouldn't say, like follow or worship anybody, like you can have like people you look to as trusted sources, but always question, like look at, when they're saying something, like, do they provide evidence? Do they back it up? And you look at that, and then even if they are providing evidence and have the sources, do you come to the same conclusion or not, based on everything else that you know about and just based on your own real life experiences? What did Gandhi say? Like, you must be the light you wish to see in the world, or the change you must be the change you wish to see in the world, which can be used for good or ill. Yeah. So I mean, what? And for some people, I mean, there are psychopaths out there. There's narcissists, and the ones who want to start within, if they actually are able to start within, well, what they're going to project onto the world is something truly horrible. But no, for people with the consciousness and empathy and normalcy and a decent idea of logic or even the abstract, it's good to do that, because in little ways, I'm a relatively small account, on social media. It's starting to grow a little bit, but there's been so many times where it's like planting seeds, like I'll put out something and it doesn't get any traction forever. And then like a year later, then someone else shares this little bit and then it goes big. And then it gets filtered through lots of different accounts and never goes back to me. Well, not never, sometimes, but in a way it's like, I can see that influence playing out. I can see that what my words just, just the other day on Sky News Australia, I saw they quoted from one of my articles just on air. So it's like, oh, these little seeds that, if you plant out there, and this comes from within. This is like your own doing the research and coming to your conclusions and doing it all in good faith. And that's from within.
One of my rules of thumb when it comes to following media sources is generally to have more faith in the media sources like the Sociable, for example, because you're a smaller outfit. And what that means is that you've got more skin in the game. You've got more to lose if you get it wrong. If CNN or Fox gets it wrong, nothing really happens.
Yeah, especially early on in the pandemic, when I was going on about all this Great Reset stuff, that really I was really putting myself out there. I knew that I got so much. Actually, a lot of the condemnation came from a lot of people who were close to me and not really out there in the public sphere. But I got that as well. So yeah, just and when it comes to bigger organizations, yeah, they even if like whatever big news is out there, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. Like a week later or something like that, they might make a tiny retraction, but by then it's already spread and no one cares. But no, I appreciate you saying that about Sociable, and yeah, because it's just, I'm not. There's no outside influences there, like not. Well, there's influences, of course, but there's not any incentive for me to do this. I'm doing this out of because I don't. Well, basically, it comes down to I just want to be left alone. I don't want all this control. I don't want all this surveillance. I don't want what's all the stuff that's coming, and so I want to let people know about that and then have them come to their own conclusions.
One of the big difficulties, though, is discerning which battles to fight, because some of these battles are really pointless. They're not worth fighting because you can't win them. You want to fight the battles that you can win. And I sometimes wonder whether folks, quote unquote, on our side just stretch themselves too thin by fighting too many battles.
Yeah, because you got to pick and choose which ones are the most important to you and things. So, yeah, when it comes to conflicts that are far away from me, like Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel, I'm not really vocal about them. I have my opinions, of course, but that's not my battle. Other people are doing that. Other people are getting stretched thin doing that, but that's not mine. I'm just because again, it's coming from something within. I just want to be left alone. I don't want this stuff happening to me. I want to let the world know what's going on here, and if you choose to pay attention to it, that's on you. If you want to or not, if you want to pick it up, if you want to go to everywhere in my stories, I put every single source, so you can go look at that. Like every report, and that's another thing too. But when you talked earlier about which media to trust, I don't read newspapers. I haven't read newspaper. Like it's only on occasion if something crosses, and even if I'm going to report on it, I'll look at whatever the media report was, and I go, okay, where are their sources in this story? And then I go directly to that source, and then I go from there. So I never, on face value, I'd never trust a media publication. I'd say do the same for my own, as an outsider. But yeah, even when I read more independent journalist stuff, from time to time, there's a circle of a few that I pay attention to, but I also look at their sources as well to, make sure they're not full of it, and keep so we're all still kept in check. Yeah.
But I mean, have you found that there is also a problem with the alternative media space?
Yeah, I don't know, because I also hear a lot about infiltration and subversion, and maybe like some aren't. Some are out there to just get a buck and get the clicks, and some are just completely not even real. Like, two sources which get huge traction are in this category are the People's Voice TV and Slay News, which they've ripped off my stories. Yeah, Slay News is not real. Frank Bergman, the main writer, whatever that's not a real person. What they do is they take stories and then it's a little bit of truth. Putting one truth and two lies or whatever together, and totally distort and twist information, and it gets them clicks. Like, I was looking back at something just even a couple nights ago that some big, huge account was sharing of, it was about the World Economic Forum publishing their blueprint for, financializing, monetizing nature and stuff. And some other huge accounts got that, and it went viral. And this is one of the times I went to Grok, and I was like, so why did this one get all the traction? And, I put that news out there. I put that out there a month before. And then it's like, well, this account uses sensationalist framing, and this is what our algorithms love, and so that's why it got disseminated. So there's people out, there's sources out there that are just all in it for that, to monetize and to get big that way. I'm not like that. I actually I like flying under the radar. I don't know if I had a huge account, if I don't know how I would deal with all that extra attention, but yeah, and then other ones, bigger ones, like Alex Jones and stuff. Like, it's going back to what I said earlier about, whether it's the most fantastical stuff to look at or mundane, consume it all, but don't believe everything. It's like, because even what Alex Jones is saying, there's some truths in there and there's some not. So make up your mind.
Yeah, I mean, and on that, something that really bugs me is the sort of doom scrolling mindset of so many people who claim to be pushing back and fighting the system, etc. But all they do all day long is share sensational stories, but they don't do anything. Have you noticed that? Oh, yeah.
I try not to fall into that category myself, especially as someone, I used to be out in the field talking to people, when I first started out in journalism, especially when I was in Ghana. I'd go to all the press conferences. I went to the former president's house, John Kufuor, and with 20 Zongo chiefs talking about tribal land rights and stuff. So I used to go to, out there. And here in Colombia in my earlier days, I was an editor at and a reporter at Columbia Reports, which is in English about news about Colombia. And I went out on the streets and where people were marching to get hostages released from the FARC guerrilla group. So I used to be out there. So the doom scrolling stuff. Now, yeah, I sit behind a computer all the time. I'm not, but I'm not, the doom scrolling. I'm not trying to do this for attention. And well, the attention that I do want to get is not on me. It's on the information. And again, like I said before, even if it's just a little tiny seed, even if it's not recognized, other bigger ones. Yeah, that's another love-hate thing. So some of the more sensational people that doom scroll and put that out, some of that, it is information I've put out there as well. And so it comes back. At least it's out there. That's what I care about. Just get information out there.
But I mean, what do you do with that information? I mean, isn't that the ultimate white pill? You've got all this information. You've got to do something with it.
Yeah. So what I do is just tell the world about it. That's all. Because I figure that there are people who are a lot smarter than me. Because I'm not a solutions person. And my solution is, I work under the axiom, or what the saying, knowledge is power. And like you said, what do you do with that knowledge? Well, you can do whatever you want with it. It's your power to do with it. And so what I'm doing with knowledge is I'm talking to you and talking with you, and I write stories and I put stuff out on the internet. and when I go back and visit the States, I mean, if I try to talk about that stuff with people here in Colombia in Spanish, my vocabulary is a little bit limited when it comes to technical stuff. But once I start talking about, people are like, okay, that's fascinating. And then they're like, okay, what's the price of avocados? So it's not like they don't really care that much here. But so, yeah, the internet's the forum to do it.
By the way, you mentioned Colombia a few times. How is it living there?
Oh, it's wonderful. I've been here 11 years. It's especially great out in the countryside. I lived in Medellin, the big city there, for 3 years. But price of living and stuff are relatively cheap. It's about 4 to 5 times cheaper than living in the United States. No GMOs, fresh. I mean, still after 11 years, I'm seeing like alien fruits that I've never heard of or tasted or tried before. So it's really great food. The infrastructure is pretty darn good. I mean, as long as you don't get too far out into the jungle areas, we still got a lot of crime. Got a lot of the government is corrupt as hell. You still got narcos. You still got guerrilla groups. Yeah, and actually, I woke up to the news today that Trump cut aid to Colombia because he said the president Gustavo Petro here is a drug dealer and stuff. So. Yeah, that's interesting. But here they only have elections. There's only one-term elections now. I've been here for long enough to know that. So 2 presidents ago, Santos, Manuel Santos, he had 2 terms, but in his second term he eliminated 2-term presidency. So the next guy, Ivan Duque, he had 5 years, and now this guy, President Petro, they've got elections I think starting next May. So that's going to be. Interesting. But no, I've seen violence, I've seen weird stuff, but overall it's a wonderful place to live for me anyway.
It sounds exactly like South Africa. you could be talking about my country.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
yeah. Do you find, Tim, that in that sort of chaotic environment, there is a sense of freedom that you don't get in other countries?
Yeah, I've always felt like it's like the Wild West here a bit. Like or like even like with the mom and pop shops everywhere, they're more popular than the big chain stores, So it just feels like because of that, and cash is like mostly king here. Even though, I mean, it's changing a bit, but still a lot of people pay everything in cash. Your neighbors. There's a big sense of community here. And while they are installing cameras and stuff, their agencies, organizations don't talk to each other. It's so hilarious because even with immigration, they don't talk to the Department of State. So one of them issues a visa, the other one just stamps your passport, but they don't talk to each other. And I love that it's not like, I love how unorganized and uncentralized it is. So yes, they have lots of data like everywhere, but so they don't know how to connect it yet, which is what I'm so happy about.
We have the same thing, yeah, and I think it's a blessing. I'll give you a quick anecdote. My wife and I were driving this weekend. We went on a short road trip, a few hours drive, and there was a roadblock. And the police pulled us over and he said, can I see your driver's license? We're just doing a routine inspection, a routine check. Mm-hmm. We're just going to put your card into the machine here to see if you have any outstanding fines. And I said to my wife, oh no, he's going to pick up on this because I got loads of outstanding fines. Why? Because I don't pay my fines because there's no system in place that can follow up on it, right? So he came back to the car and he gave me my driver's license and he said, you're all good, sir. Have a good day. My wife just laughed. My wife laughed. She said, okay, let's just go.
Yeah. Same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
I've got the same thing. I drive an 88 Mazda and there's cameras that give you tickets, which I didn't know about when I first started driving. So I racked up a few of those and I've been pulled over so many times. Well, checkpoints. Yeah. And they just look at the license and they don't, in my case, they don't run it. They don't scan it. And in my case, my license was printed out on a bad printer so that the thumbprint is gone. It's not even there. Even the barcode is a little bit there. That the head is twisted. It's like elongated on the photo. But yeah, they don't talk to each other. So like the the ones that, and every single year I have to go in for inspection on the car, the technical mechanical inspection, and they don't talk to anyone else either. So so every year it keeps getting renewed. So the thing is, though, I think when I have to renew my license, my driver's license, which would be in 2 years, then I think they ask for like, well, do you have any priors? So I don't know what's going to happen then. Or I'll just go to the United States and get an American driver's license and bring that over here. Maybe that'll work. Who knows? But then I have to sign up for a real ID. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But so, I mean, are you a Colombian citizen?
No, still American. Okay. I've been here just on different types of visas, work visa, tourist visa, you name it. I've been, just been going off of those.
Why did you move there?
So in 2011, I was living in Seattle. I was working at a restaurant going nowhere. And I hadn't used any of my education. I mean, I went to school for linguistics, but I studied Spanish. And so I was not liking where I was in life. And so I did the digital equivalent of spinning the globe. So I just searched, I want to do something with writing. So I searched writing gigs, internships, and I was just like the world or South America or something like that. And then there was the first thing that popped up was an unpaid internship in Medellin, Colombia, for 3 months. And I was like, all right, I'll go try that out. And loved it. I was there for 3 months, cut my teeth into journalism. My first week, 2 days, I think 3 days into my first time ever being a journalist, my story got picked up by Fox News, BBC, CNN, CBS. It got picked up everywhere. It was about a Colombian soccer player who went to Saudi Arabia and got arrested because he had Jesus tattoos on his arms displayed. You can't do that. So that was my first week. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this. And I fell in love with Colombia. I went back it was only 3 months, went back to the States, tried to look for a job, couldn't get one. So in 3 months after that, I did again. I was like, well, I'm going to try to be an intern. Maybe if I get some more international experience, it'll be okay. So did the same search again, but for like Africa. And I saw one in Ghana for the Ghanaian Chronicle. And so I went over there. That's, and then after doing that, went back to the States, couldn't find a job again, worked in restaurants. I worked at Applebee's as a waiter and Johnny Rockets as a waiter and a host at those restaurants. And then I was like, no, I'm going to maybe I'll be a travel writer. So I got one way ticket to Peru. I thought I was going to be a travel writer about, going to Inca and ruins and stuff like that. So I spent a month in Peru. Didn't really do much there. I just went and visited ruins, drank some wine, and had 2-day hangovers from the altitude sickness. And I was like, ah. And then while I was 3 weeks there, I rang up my old editor in Colombia, and I said, hey, can I just come stay with you and crash at your place? Because I lived with this person in Medellin who's a Dutch anarchist, really fun dude. And my intention was just to stay in Colombia for another 6 months, just not doing anything because I had enough money saved up that I was just going to hang out. But he had the newsroom in his apartment at the time, for the Colombian one. And it was during election week. And I was like, oh, I got that itch. And I was like, oh my God, could I come join you? And so then again, I worked for free for another 5 months. And then I got, from doing that, a local entrepreneur or an entrepreneur in Colombia who's American offered me a place working in PR, and then from PR getting into the Sociable, so that's the story. It's kind of long, but it's been a lot of ups and downs and twists and turns.
No, but your story is great in the sense also that it shows that otherwise backward countries could actually be great choices, particularly as we move into a more technocratic future. There seems to be a bigger buffer in these types of countries.
Yeah, and I always I've said this for many years. Is that for me, Colombia was the land of opportunity. So many people want to get out and go to the United States, but for me, I couldn't. Every single job I was looking for wanted 3 to 5 years of experience. I graduated university in 2007. In 2008, the whole the whole economy collapsed, and so I couldn't get anything. And so I was just so frustrated. And I was like, well, at least for me, it was I wanted adventure, but maybe this is my way in so I can come back to the United States and work for a big news outlet or something. I ended up falling in love with it here because like those things you said, like the infrastructure, the kind of Wild West of it, the organized chaos and stuff. It just really lent it to being the place where I can thrive and survive. And especially like right now, I'm sitting outside. I do all my writing and working, outside on this front balcony and or this front little porch here, and I've got a view of just beautiful green mountains. I'm up in the Andes, and so it's just it's conducive for writing. There's stuff going on here, but it just I can thrive in this environment.
Well, yes, and also because Colombia and South Africa and Ghana and countries that are what you would consider developing or third world or whatever, they tend to have lower starting points. Like the baselines are lower, so there is actually opportunity in many areas. Whereas if you go to say Shanghai, everything is developed, and I'm not entirely certain how many opportunities there are anymore.
Yeah, and there's less competition, right? Like not billion, not like somewhere like India where there's billions of people trying to get one thing, or a billion people. Well, yeah, you're looking at traffic and stuff like that. I was just looking at this example from India. I spent a month in India as well. That was interesting. Like people would just stop their cars in the middle of the road to walk over and get something in the street from a store and block traffic forever because it's that competitive. Like, no, if I don't do this here, I'm never going to get a spot. I have to do that. I have to be first. It's so competitive. I imagine like big old cities are like that as well. But if you're out in a place where there's, it's not as developed, there's not, there's less competition. And so even if I weren't doing what I'm doing here, doing what I do, teaching English would be something that just everywhere, everyone's looking for that, there's always something.
But the big thing for me is, again, to try and be in a place where you have, I think, a better prospect of not being privy to all the sort of New World Order stuff. I don't know if you've been to Amsterdam, but it's a 15-minute city in the making. There's no reason for you ever to own a car. You can just ride a bicycle, and there's no reason for you to go further than 15 minutes because everything is there. Whereas here in South Africa, a 15-minute city is not going to be happening anytime soon because there's no infrastructure.
Yeah, and like I said about the mom and pop shops and things, it's like stepping back in time in a way. Like to what my parents would talk about the 1970s or 1980s. Well, even going back in Ghana, I remember the first I got one of these fruit juices or a soda or something, and it had a pop top. Like the one that you can actually snap off and. I thought those went away like in the 1970s. I thought like I'd never see that before, or even there. Okay, corned beef is a weird thing. I've never seen corned beef in Colombia, but I know in Brazil they do it because when I was in Ghana, I used to get corned beef in cans from Brazil, and it was with those little keys that you twist around. And like I thought those were from MREs from World War II, but those are still here. This is awesome. Yeah, and so it's like that. You can so it's like you're slowed down in time here. I do feel it's eventually going to come, but maybe you bought yourself 15, 20 years, of that. They have the means to do it. They got the money, they got the funding for it. You've got Larry Ellison funding the Tony Blair Institute. You got Blair and Starmer being labor, who are all Fabians who've got tons of money and things like that, and lots of influences. And big, like again, Larry Ellison, Oracle, big and media, just tons of stuff. Here we got it. It's at the airports is the most is the biggest. Where it's rolled out is like I couldn't believe. Yeah, the biomig check thing that they have at the airports. They just scan. Like I don't use it. I think it's more for Colombian citizens, but it is completely. They don't even talk to an agent. They just go right through, scan themselves, and then they enter the country. So. I imagine that's. I haven't actually looked into what Colombia's system is, but I imagine it comes from somewhere else, and it's definitely not home. I don't think it's a homegrown thing. So yeah, they've managed to do it there because it's a small little what do they call it? Sandbox to do it in. Try doing that on the people here when we still got. There's child labor, there's child soldiers, there's all the infrastructure is not connected. It's so disjointed. It's a little more tricky to do it on a larger scale.
Why do you think, Tim, so many countries, though, have bought into this?
Well, I mean, their governments are normally, you got to be psychopathic to run in government. And if you're not, as soon as they get in there, they take you behind a closed door and say, huh, this is how things really happen. So better change your tune. But a lot of them, I think, want money from elsewhere. And it's almost like, they want that funding, in the States, like, well, we want that federal funding, so we got to do this or whatever. So a lot of them, they'll sign up to stuff for the United Nations, that's the big one, the Pact for the Future. Every single country, 193 agreed. They consented to rolling out digital public infrastructure in their countries, which is digital public infrastructure, DPI, civic technology stack, modeled after India's Aadhaar thing. It's digital identity, it's fast payment systems, and data sharing, data exchanges between public and private entities. So,
but it's not just that, though. Mm-hmm. It's not just that. It's also, as Ian Davis points out, it's sustainable development, which is the ultimate goal.
Yes, it's all about, the Pact for the Future, the UN, their whole mandate is Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development Goals. This is one way of, this is just one component of it, of course. The other thing, too, is in sustainability, this net zero stuff, it's all tied back. You go, if you want to do the, digital ID, carbon credit, social credit, system thing. Yeah, it's all part of it. But but DPI, sustainable, what is sustainable? If you get rid of carbon as the boogeyman, everything falls apart. Yeah. There's not one argument. And this just is the most insane thing to me. And now you're not even allowed to question policy. The UN has been coming out saying that even if you question policy, anything that impedes on our progress towards a 2030 agenda, sustainable development goals, you are spreading disinformation. So, and then they're creating a disinformation task force as well to go after that. And in the EU, Ursula von der Leyen was saying that misinformation, disinformation, bad. And the World Economic Forum, everyone's saying that. And again, it is going back to that Agenda 2030, the sustainable development goals. And without carbon as the boogeyman, it all freaking falls apart.
Yeah, I asked you earlier about your sort of Damascus moments. And I think my first one was around 2009, 2010, when I watched a documentary called The Great Global Warming Swindle. And that was the first time I started questioning everything that I thought I knew. And little did I know how important that film would be, because everything actually is centered around carbon dioxide, as you just pointed out. Mm-hmm. Everything.
Yep. Well, even where's the story that I did? I've read The Great Reset and The Great Narrative, from Klaus Schwab and Thierry Mallory. I actually interviewed Thierry Mallory once as well. But so the idea, even when the pandemic came, it was all, what they did is they took those climate change narratives, slapped it on to COVID, and then once the COVID control narrative went away, they went back to the climate net zero stuff. So two quotes from The Great Reset, which were really kind of eye-opening. One was, some leaders and decision makers who were already at the forefront of the fight against climate change may want to take advantage of the shock inflicted by the pandemic to implement long-lasting and wider environmental changes. They will, in effect, make good use of the pandemic by not just letting the crisis go to waste. That's one of them. And then the other quote is, if in the post-pandemic era, we decide to resume our lives just as before, by driving the same cars, by flying to the same destinations, by eating the same things, by heating our house the same way, and so on, the COVID-19 crisis will have gone to waste as far as climate policies are concerned.
Sure.
So, that's the Great
quite
Reset.
Revealing.
Yeah. And so, it's whatever was before, like lockdowns and what climate lockdowns, back, lockdown of all of society. Consume less, eat less meat. You'll own nothing, be happy. Whoa, that's another one. That has to do more with the circular economy, which is coming as well. Circular economy is where you product as a service. So anything that is a product, now it becomes a service to rent out. So you actually
like Apple Music.
Yeah, it's a life as a subscription. Yeah, that's what the circular economy is. That's a big one from the WEF. Club of Rome is huge on that as well. and I think McKinsey, Deloitte, all like they love their circular economy because that's yeah, you own nothing.
But it is also sometimes quite handy to have.
What is?
Subscriptions. I mean, for example, you don't want to keep buying an album all the time. Sometimes you just want one or two songs, but you want access to all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but how long is that access available? A lot of times it's what they do is it's their licensing. So I remember I bought on Amazon back in like 2012 the musical Danny Kaye, Hans Christian Andersen, Amazon. And now I go try to find it, get it again. It says, no, you don't own this. Like, no, I bought that. Well, they don't own they didn't own the rights at one point, or they lost it, or something changed, or there's a policy update. So that's how quickly those things can go away. I would I still, at least back in my folks' home in the United States, we've still got a collection, not VHS anymore, unfortunately, but DVDs, tons of DVDs. And records. But I do have records.
Yeah, me too. I've got a whole bunch behind me.
Yeah, and it's just amazing to have those. I mean, if the internet goes out, something goes wrong, some kind of terms of service doesn't work anymore. What if a company goes belly up, or they sell it to someone else and becomes more expensive? You know, if you can't afford the subscription anymore, or if one type of thing isn't available, they keep raising prices, or they said, oh, now you can't share this with this person. Your accounts, it can only be limited here and stuff like that, or on this device, even though you might own multiple. I mean, they can change at any moment. So no, I prefer the physical of, yeah. I prefer analog stuff, but no, you're right about convenience. It is. Oh, especially, okay, I'll do it with books, like I got my Kindle, you know, I can't lug around cases and cases of books everywhere I go to, you know, I can't bring those on a plane with me. So yeah, that it's really convenient when it comes to, for in my case, for the books and stuff.
But it's
streaming.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Catherine Orson Fitz often says. You just apply some discernment. You don't have to go in either direction to the extreme. I mean, it is sometimes a lot better to have 100 books on your Kindle, for example, than to have 100 books in your luggage when you're flying.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. For obvious reasons, yes.
Yes. But then playing a vinyl is just so much nicer.
It is, isn't it? You don't. Yeah, those are things that you don't get to experience. And well, speaking of those things, you know, like when we do talk about the incoming digital gulag, panopticon control grid and stuff like that, as more and more people sign up for it and agree to give privacy away, or if they don't agree to it, it just all of a sudden is inflicted or thrust upon them, then, you know, future generations are never going to know what freedom is, just like how other ones are not going to know what a vinyl record sounds like, you know. And you can go back for, you know, every single century, go back, you know, all these things. You know, we don't know what that smell is, or the sound of the blacksmith making that horseshoe, you know, or, you know, doing things like that, you know. And what was that old movie from Disney way back in the day, Tall Tale, The Adventures of Pecos Bill, and they, like, electric light balls are coming. How we're going to see the stars, you know, that kind of stuff.
When you talk about freedom, what do you mean, though?
Talk about what?
When you talk about freedom, what do you mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, just the freedom to be without being monitored, and kind of, and because you're monitored, what you're doing is you change your behavior. If you know you're always being watched, they did this. I remember this little experiment they did. I saw a few years ago with kids. Like, so the teacher, I think it was during lockdowns, and the teacher like went away for a second, but kept the camera rolling, you know, like for the virtual classroom stuff. And then the kids started going, "Teacher's gone. We can." And then one of them's like, "Well, hey, the camera's still on. It's still recording, guys. They can still see us." And then was like, "Oh, okay." So that's the kind of thing, because once, you know, you just can't go any. That's what I love about nature. I love kayaking. I love fishing. I love hiking. I love going out in these places where just no one can see you. And, you know, like you're kind of, it's that privacy thing, you know. And some people say, well, if you got nothing to hide, well, what's the problem, you know? And then I'm thinking like, well, why don't you just walk around naked all day? You know, what's the problem with that? You know, yeah, there's limits here.
All right, dude, I'm looking at the time. One more time. How can my audience follow your work?
Oh, thanks a lot. Sociable.co is the website. And on X, it's at the Sociable. And then for me personally, at Tim Hinchliffe. And Jeremy, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.